In this video, we are going to look at record keeping. So it's important that you follow each one of these stipulations when you own a business. So at the restaurant, you can't lack in any one of these areas. The very first thing you're going to need to make sure and do is display an official poster that outlines the Fair Labor Standards Act and the laws and the rules. You can actually get a free copy off of the FLSA website, and you'll see that in this course. So that's one of the first things is displaying your federal and also your state required posters. That's absolutely necessary. Now, the government is pretty clear on the things that you need to keep record of. And if you have a payroll company that you're working with, typically this stuff is already in there. If you're not using a payroll software and you're paying people out of your accounting software, you need to be keeping very clear and detailed records on the following pieces. The employee's name and social, their address, their birth date, especially if they're younger than 19, but you still recommend keeping that. The gender and occupation, time and day of week when employee work week begins, the hours worked each day, total hours worked each work week, basis on which the employee's wages are paid, regular hourly pay rate, total daily or weekly straight time earnings, overtime earnings for the work week, all additions or deductions from the employee's wages, total wages paid each pay period, and the date of payment and the pay period covered by the payment. So in other words, you basically need every detail, including their timesheets, you need their pay, you need their check stubs, you need records of when they're paid and what time period it covers. All that is necessary and required. Now, how long do you have to retain any of these records? Well, if it's payroll records, you have to retain that for at least 3 years. So in other words, the government does give you the opportunity to purge records. And if you talk to any attorney, they'll probably tell you to start purging records after a certain period of time. If you hold on to things permanently, that might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it might not necessarily be a good thing either. But in this case, they say at least 3 years for payroll records. And if you're employing somebody right now, you need to hold on to them. So if a person's terminated, that's probably when you need to probably look at purging documents. And again, talk to an attorney if you're not sure, or call the Department of Labor, but at least 3 years following their employment. So if a person terminates, you need to hold on to their payroll records at least 3 years. So keep that in mind. But it also includes sales and purchase records. But then there's a second stipulation. So that's payroll records. But now let's talk about wage computations, time cards, wage rate tables, work and time schedules, records of additions and deductions from wages. That needs to be held for at least 2 years. So if a person terminates, you need to hold on to those records for at least 2 years. That's something you're going to be required to do by law. Again, if you're not sure of the rules and the stipulations, talk to an attorney, call the Department of Labor. They're all options for you to, of course, utilize. Now, here's something for you to know. Did you know that 36 out of the 72 cases that arise this year for those restaurants that had violations, they did not keep accurate records? So actually 5 of them, and really out of the 5, one of them also had accurate record issues, but 4 of them, 5 of those specifically falsified records. So what that means is the employer maliciously went into time cards and made adjustments and changes and falsified the documentation, which is an illegal practice and puts people into a really dangerous situation in your business in a very, very odd and scary predicament. This is not due to the falsified records, but clearly those companies had to pay civil money penalties. When that happens, typically the government does that. And a civil money penalty is basically like saying, hey, because you did this practice and you did it willfully and illegally, we are going to fine you for doing this. It's like basically a speeding ticket in a sense, but it doesn't look good when it's advertised. These companies or restaurants, just the amount of wages that were recovered, over $21 million in wages recovered. And again, you can think of that as half of that as liquidated damages. So really they only owed their employees 10.5 million in wages, and then the extra 10.5 on top of that was liquidated damages. So again, something you need to keep at the top of mind. These are things you should not ignore. Keep accurate records and hold it for the time period you're supposed to.